slice him down the road into a pole, totally destroyed the car. The front's crushed, the back's crushed, but the interior wasn't damaged at all.
Mazda just did something the entire automotive world thought was completely finished. Back in February 2024, they didn't just tease some nostalgic side project or throw together a half-hearted tribute to their engineering roots. They actually built a dedicated department, staffed it with 36 engineers, and handed them one very specific mission: bring the rotary engine back, for real. Not as a display piece sitting behind glass in some museum, but as actual hardware with genuine production intent. And the wildest part? They might actually pull it off. So what exactly is Mazda building here, and why does it matter so much? This is the comeback nobody saw coming. On February 1st, 2024, Mazda made it official by bringing back what they're calling the RE Development Group. This wasn't some vague press release buried inside a quarterly earnings call. This was a full department with its own resources, its own standing, and one crystal clear goal: develop rotary engines that can actually survive in today's automotive world. 36 engineers might not sound like a massive operation, but for a niche engine program, that number speaks volumes. Most automakers would never create an entire department around a specialty engine type unless they already had real plans that stretched well beyond concept cars and PR stunts. What Mazda was essentially telling the world is that they're willing to put real money, real talent, and genuine belief behind an engine design that nearly every other manufacturer had already written off as a dead end. The RE Development Group isn't exactly working in the shadows either. Mazda has been surprisingly transparent about their goals. They want to build rotary engines that can clear modern emissions hurdles, fit into hybrid powertrains, and run on carbon-neutral fuels. That last point is incredibly significant because it reframes the rotary not as some outdated relic, but as a technology that could theoretically have a place in a low-carbon future. Whether that's genuinely achievable or just clever marketing is something time will tell, but the level of commitment behind it is difficult to dismiss. To really appreciate why this comeback is so surprising, you first have to understand why the rotary disappeared in the first place. The Wankel rotary engine, named after its inventor Felix Wankel, was genuinely seen as the future back in the 1960s and 70s. It was compact, lightweight, had far fewer moving parts than a conventional piston engine, and could spin to incredibly high revs. Mazda fell hard for this design and became the only major automaker to mass-produce rotary-powered vehicles. But the engine had some serious baggage. Fuel economy was significantly worse than a conventional engine, partly due to the shape of the combustion chamber and how the air-fuel mixture behaved inside it. When the oil crisis of the 1970s hit, fuel-hungry engines suddenly became a massive liability. Emissions were an even thornier problem. Rotary engines struggled to burn fuel cleanly, pumping out hydrocarbons and other pollutants that put environmental regulators on edge. As emissions legislation tightened across the world, the rotary became increasingly difficult to defend. Mazda kept pushing, refining the design through the RX-7 and eventually the RX-8, but by 2012, even they had to throw in the towel. The RX-8 was discontinued and the rotary engine was quietly shelved. The world moved on. Turbocharged 4 cylinders, efficient diesels, then hybrids and EVs. For over a decade, the rotary was basically dead. So when Mazda announced they were bringing it back, the reaction wasn't just surprise, it was flat-out disbelief. Here's something a lot of people actually miss though. Mazda had already quietly brought the rotary back. In 2023, they launched the MX-30R EV, a plug-in hybrid SUV that uses a small single-rotor engine of just 830 cubic centimeters. But the twist is that this rotary doesn't drive the wheels at all. It runs as a range extender spinning smoothly to generate electricity, which charges the battery, which then powers the electric motor that actually moves the car. This is a completely different job compared to what rotary engines were doing in the RX-7 or RX-8. Instead of screaming toward 9,000 revolutions per minute and drinking fuel at an alarming rate, this little engine runs at a steady, controlled pace, almost like a portable generator on wheels. And as it turns out, rotary engines are actually pretty well suited to that role. They're compact, remarkably smooth, and when you're not demanding brutal horsepower from them, they can be reasonably efficient. The MX-30R EV wasn't a huge commercial hit, but it proved something important. Mazda could build a modern rotary engine that met current emission standards and served a real-world purpose. It was a proof of concept, a way to keep the engineering knowledge alive and lay the groundwork for what was coming next. That next step arrived at the 2023 Japan Mobility Show, where Mazda unveiled the iconic SP concept. And this is where things got genuinely exciting. This wasn't a sensible family crossover, it was a two-seat sports car with sharp, aggressive styling, a low-slung stance, and a powertrain that immediately caught the attention of enthusiasts worldwide. It used a twin-rotor rotary engine paired with an electric motor in a hybrid layout, with Mazda claiming output of around 370 horsepower while keeping emissions relatively low and maintaining the ability to run on carbon-neutral fuel. The design was striking too. Purposeful and tightly drawn, clearly made for people who actually love driving. But concepts are easy. Automakers show off dazzling concept cars all the time, and most of them never see the inside of a production facility. What made the iconic SP feel different was the language Mazda used around it. They didn't say, "This explores what could be possible." They said they were considering production. That is a fundamentally different statement. And according to more recent reports, they weren't bluffing. Sources close to the development team have indicated that the next-generation rotary powertrain intended for a car like the iconic SP is nearly technically complete. Most of the engineering work is essentially done. What remains now is the business case, the manufacturing plan, and the final go or no-go decision. So what exactly is Mazda doing differently this time around? How do you take an engine design that was previously killed by emissions and efficiency problems and make it viable in 2025? For starters, Mazda isn't using the rotary as a traditional primary power source. The hybrid architecture lets the rotary operate within its most efficient rev range, generating electricity rather than routing power directly through a gearbox to the wheels. That change alone eliminates a large chunk of the old fuel consumption issues. When a rotary engine is allowed to spin at a consistent, optimized speed instead of constantly responding to acceleration and braking demands, managing it becomes far more practical. On top of that, Mazda is engineering the new rotary for carbon-neutral fuel. Even if it still burns something, if that fuel has been synthesized from atmospheric carbon or produced from renewable sources like microalgae, the overall emissions picture shifts dramatically. Mazda is betting that carbon-neutral fuels will become more widely available and that regulators will begin accounting for full life cycle emissions rather than just what exits the tailpipe. It's a gamble, but not an irrational one. Emissions control technology has also advanced enormously since 2012. Modern catalytic converters, particulate filters, and combustion management systems are in a completely different league compared to what was available a decade ago, and Mazda claims its new rotary designs can meet Euro 7 and upcoming US emission standards, something that would have been virtually impossible not long ago. The twin-rotor setup in the iconic SP concept is also worth paying close attention to. Two rotors provide more displacement and more power output while preserving the compact footprint and silky smooth operation that rotary engines have always been celebrated for. When you pair that with an electric motor, you get immediate torque from the electric side and high revving character from the rotary side. At least on paper, it plays to the strengths of both technologies. The development team is also working on improving the apex seal design, historically one of the rotary's most persistent weak points. Apex seals maintain compression inside the combustion chambers, and they've long had a reputation for wear. Better materials and advanced coatings could dramatically extend engine life and help put the old reliability criticism to rest. Then in 2025, Mazda introduced yet another concept, the Vision X Coupe. And this time they push the carbon-neutral angle even harder. The concept is reportedly designed to run on fuel derived from microalgae, a renewable source that absorbs carbon dioxide as it grows. The message couldn't be clearer. Mazda wants to reposition the Rotary not as a gas-guzzling throwback, but as part of a genuinely sustainable future. That's a bold rebranding effort, and how much you buy into it probably comes down to how you feel about synthetic fuels and alternative routes to decarbonization. The mainstream auto industry is firmly committed to battery electric vehicles right now, and there's no denying that's the dominant direction. But Mazda is making the argument that there's still space for different solutions, especially in segments where driving emotion, personality, and identity still carry weight. The Vision X Coupe also signals that Mazda isn't thinking about just one Rotary model. If they're developing multiple concepts with Rotary powertrains, they're clearly probing just how far this technology can realistically go. Let's be honest though, this is still a massive gamble. Developing a new engine from the ground up costs a fortune. Developing one that only fits a niche product costs even more. Mazda isn't Toyota or Volkswagen. They don't have bottomless resources. Every dollar flowing into Rotary development is a dollar not going toward EV platforms, updated conventional engines, or expanding the hybrid range, the products that actually keep the lights on. There's also the market question: who is genuinely going to buy a Rotary-powered sports car in 2026 or 2027? Hardcore enthusiasts will absolutely queue up, but that's a small crowd. The broader market has moved toward SUVs, crossovers, and increasingly electric vehicles. A two-seat sports car, no matter how compelling, is still a hard sell in that landscape. Mazda's own executives have acknowledged this. In interviews, they've said justifying the investment is genuinely difficult, but they've also said that some things are worth pursuing even when the financial logic isn't immediately obvious. The Rotary engine is part of Mazda's DNA. It's part of what sets them apart. And in a world where cars are becoming increasingly homogeneous, maybe that distinctiveness still carries real value. There's also the risk that carbon-neutral fuels simply won't scale up or will remain prohibitively expensive. If that plays out, the Rotary's environmental argument collapses, and Mazda is left defending a niche engine under increasingly aggressive emissions regulations. But zoom out for a moment, and Mazda's Rotary revival is more than just one company's passion project. It's a signal to the industry that old technologies can be reimagined, that there isn't only one road forward, and that emotional connection still has a place in the automotive world. Most automakers have accepted electrification as inevitable and are sprinting toward it. Mazda is essentially saying, yes, we're doing that too, but we're also going to explore other possibilities and try to keep the internal combustion engine alive in a form that can coexist with tougher environmental standards. Whether they succeed or fall short, this is a fascinating experiment, and the rest of the industry is watching closely. If Mazda can build a viable business case for a niche, emotionally driven product in the age of electrification, others may follow. We've already seen companies like Porsche putting serious investment into synthetic fuels for similar reasons. There's a growing acknowledgement that not everybody wants to drive something silent, efficient, and completely personality-free. Some people want engagement. They want a machine that communicates back. The Rotary engine, with its distinctive sound, its uncanny smoothness, and its high-revving nature, delivers that in a way very few other engines ever could. Mazda still hasn't officially committed to production. The iconic SP and Vision X Coupe remain concepts, and the final call on whether a Rotary sports car actually gets built hasn't been publicly announced. But the fact that the engineering is reportedly near completion suggests they're getting very close to that decision. The next few years will reveal whether this gamble pays off or whether the Rotary ends up as the most exciting concept car that never made it to a dealership. Either way, the fact that Mazda is even willing to try says something worth paying attention to. They're betting that passion, heritage, and intelligent engineering can still carve out a space in an industry transforming at breathtaking speed. And honestly, that's a bet worth watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Nature Mystery Unravel Mysteries. Learn untold tales of history and stay in the exciting world of new discoveries.